Shakur Stevenson absolutely dogs out Frank Martin, and he has some things to say about Errol Spence as well. We're going to talk about what he had to say about Frank Martin and my thoughts on that, and we also going to talk about what he had to say about Errol Spence. So before we do that, make sure that you hit the like button on this video. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button if you're not already a sub. And let's cook on this. So everybody in the boxing world knows what went on between Shakur Stevenson and Frank Martin. You know, if you don't know, I don't know what you've been doing. But we gonna talk about exactly what went down and what Shakur Stevenson had to say about the whole situation in the interview that he just did. Now, we all know that we thought we was getting Frank Martin versus Shakur Stevenson. It's a fight that, you know, a lot of people at one point in time were saying that Shakur Stevenson was ducking. For some reason or another, I don't know why people were saying this, but the ones who was going around saying this, a lot of y'all content creators, and y'all know who y'all are, so we don't have to get into all of that. But eventually, the fight was talked about. Shakur wanted all the smoke with Frank Martin, and Shakur felt that this was the fighter that he was finally going to get his respect for when he dogged him and beat him like he said he was going to do. So Shakur was excited about the fight, man. You know, Frank Martin, he talked about Shakur's situation with Devin Haney, and he said, if it was me, you know, I would have took the 25% with Haney. You know, hey, so if the 25% situation comes up with me, I'm taking it. So he had a chance. He actually had a chance to make 4 times the amount that he's actually ever made in his whole entire career. And when Shakur spoke on the situation, right, he spoke on that. We thought we were getting the fight, but for some reason, Frank Martin pulled out of the fight. We also heard from Bob Arum, and Bob Arum said, look, man, everybody on Frank Martin's side, they agreed. They agreed. They wanted the fight to go down. Errol Spence wanted it. TBG, the promoter, wanted it. Everybody wanted it on the PBC. But at the last minute, Frank Martin got cold feet, and he decided that he wanted more money, and he pulled out. Now, when Shakur talked about the situation, you know, because it's a lot of speculation going on. And in the interview, Shakur, he talked about it. He said, look, man, I'm going to put Frank Martin's business out there. We just going to put it out there. You know, and it's public record. So if you really want to know, you can go look. And Shakur talked about how Frank Martin, his biggest payday was $250,000. He's never got paid more than $250,000. And they were offering him $1 million for the fight. So that's 4 times more than he's ever made. And so, you know, with Frank Martin pulling out the fight, Shakur, he has some things to say about Frank Martin. He don't respect Frank Martin at all, man. He said that Frank Martin is a bitch. Frank Martin is a P-U-S-S-Y. Frank Martin ain't got no nuts. And, you know, he completely dogged out Frank Martin. He said if there's any B's in boxing, Frank Martin is the definition of one. You know what I'm saying? He said Frank Martin, he walk around acting like he tough. He talk that tough talk, but he's not about it. He ain't about none of that stuff that he said he was about. And when he had the chance to show that he was about it, he did the exact opposite. Now, my feelings on the situation, him dogging out Frank Martin, you know, I mean, at one point he has the right to do it because, you know, Shakur, he was excited. He thought that he was going to get that fight with Frank, and it didn't happen because Frank pulled out, and he pulled out because of money. It's no other explanation why he pulled out. Now, do I think that Shakur went a little bit too far calling that man, you know, all type of B's and P's and all of that? Yeah, he could have went a little bit too far. But I told people a long time ago, even when Shakur Stevenson was with Andre Ward, I said, that kind of nice guy image that they got Shakur playing, that's not him. And I told people why I knew that wasn't Shakur's MO, because I sat next to Shakur at a fight before. He sat right next to me. And the whole time, Shakur, You know, he was talking that street shit. Shakur, he just like that. That's how he is in real life. And when he do interviews, he don't hold nothing back, and he gonna show you how he really is. And we gotta understand that he's only 26 years old. So all of these young fighters, they got a lot of maturing to do, as well as Shakur Stevenson. So maybe he shouldn't have went that raw on Frank Martin, but that's how he feel. He feel Frank Martin is everything that he said he was, and Frank Martin, you know, he can do one thing. He can step up to the plate and prove to Shakur that he ain't no beat, that he ain't no pussy. He can prove that. But obviously, what Shakur was saying, Frank Martin ain't came out and he ain't said nothing about it. You know, I've seen Frank Martin posted on Instagram, but he hasn't denied anything that Shakur Stevenson said. When Shakur Stevenson said that Frank Martin hit me up in the DM and we talked about it, and the man feel like that he deserved 50-50. You know, I mean, Shakur's not wrong. How does Frank Martin deserve 50-50 when Frank, he ain't really done nothing yet? You know what I'm talking about? He ain't even won a world title yet. We're talking about this man, he haven't won a world title yet. And I'm seeing people, right, the same content creators that go around, you know, meat mushing Devin Haney, and the same ones that, you know, and the same fans that'll get up under here and try to say that, oh man, well, Shakur didn't take the 25% with Devin Haney, when the two situations are nothing like each other. They're not similar at all, but people just don't want to admit you don't like Shakur Stevenson. So those same people are trying to take up for Frank Martin, you know, turning down a lifetime situation, right? And Shakur, he talked about why he feels that Frank Martin turned down the fight. He says he don't believe that Frank Martin believes in himself. He don't believe that Frank Martin actually believes that he can beat Shakur Stevenson. So in order to fight somebody like Shakur, he wants 10 times more than he's ever made to take an L on his record, because he's not confident in his abilities. And when Shakur said that, I absolutely 1,000% agree with what Shakur said about Frank Martin. He don't believe that he can beat Shakur. It is what it is, you know. And I did another video on this, and I played a clip of Frank Martin speaking on the Shakur Stevenson fight, and this was just 5 months ago. 5 months ago, Frank Martin said it makes no sense in fighting Shakur Stevenson right now, because if they fought right now, they're only gonna make in the low millions. But if they fight down the line, then they'll make in the millions and millions, right? They'll make big M's. So he said, why fight now when you're only gonna make $1 million or $2 million, when you can fight down the line when both of them have bigger names and you can make millions on top of millions? That's what Frank Martin said 5 months ago. Now, when I made that video, people came in the comments and y'all was crying and bitching and complaining, saying, well, Frank Martin said that then, this is not new. It doesn't matter. If he felt like that 5 months ago, now that they start negotiating and Frank Martin sees that, well, I'm only gonna make 1 million like I thought when I said in the interview 5 months ago, what has changed? Nothing changed. That's why I put that video out, because he proved nothing changed, because he pulled out of a fight that he was gonna make 4 times more than he's ever made in his whole entire career. Errol Spence wanted to smoke. TBG, the promoter, wanted to smoke. Al Hammond gave him the go-ahead, but he pulled out. And I see people, right? And I'm not going to name your names, because y'all that are watching this video, right? And if you are watching this video, you know exactly who y'all are. Y'all are trying to defend this. Y'all are not holding Frank Martin's feet to the fire. Y'all are saying everything but calling Frank Martin a duck. And that's exactly what he did, you know. Now, is it a great business move? You know, I felt that Frank Martin wasn't going to take this fight, because I think that Frank Martin is looking at the situation and he feels like that he can get a much easier fight, a much winnable fight, when Devin Haney has to basically relinquish all those titles because he moved up to 140 and the titles are going to be vacant. So why fight a Shakur Stevenson when that is probably the toughest fight in the division. It comes down to Shakur Stevenson and Gervonta Davis. Two toughest fight in the division. Now, if I'm gonna make $1 million, right, fighting Shakur Stevenson, I could take another 250, fight a much easier opponent, and keep the O on my record, because these young fighters, they all about that O nowadays. In the business of boxing, right, it's all about that O. You're going to make more money when you have an O on your record, and people can still run with the narratives that certain people are afraid of you and all of that. Y'all know how it goes. So I agree with everything that Shakur Stevenson had to say about Frank Martin, except for I don't agree that he should have called that man all out of his name. But, you know, that's how he feel about it, and Frank Martin got to do something about it if he feels some type of way. Now, as far as Errol Spence, right? Shakur, man, he gave Errol Spence all the love in the world. And it kind of surprised me, because we know how hard Shakur was riding for Terrence Crawford, and how, you know, many times he let the world know that he was riding for his brother, that he called him, Terrence Crawford, right? When it came to Errol Spence, man, Shakur was like, man, hey, EJ is a dog. EJ is a living legend. EJ is on a whole different level, mentality-wise and everything, you know. He just ran into Terrence Crawford, who is the best fighter in the world, but he was displaying, man, how much love and respect that he has for Errol Spence, and he let everybody know that Frank Martin doesn't have the same mentality that Errol Spence has. Frank Martin is not the same dog that Errol Spence is. And so, man, he just showed all type of love for Errol Spence and let everybody know you can't talk down on Errol Spence, because Errol Spence is different. He different, you know. And Errol Spence is showing that by taking this rematch, or trying to get this rematch with Terrence Crawford. And Shakur also spoke on that. Now, I'm not going to hold y'all, you know, much longer. I just want to let y'all know that, you know, my thoughts and my feelings on what Shakur had to say about Frank Martin. And he right, man. Frank Martin, he pulled his skirt up and he showed what he got for right now. If Frank Martin come back to the table after this, maybe that fight will be there, maybe it won't. And we got to see. We got to see what Frank Martin go from here. I personally like Frank Martin as a fighter. I just didn't like what he pulled in this situation. And it ain't no excuses. Stop making excuses for the man. It is what it is. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about this whole situation. Make sure that you drop a comment in the comment section. Make sure that you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you're not already a sub to the channel. And y'all already know how I do. There you go, talking that boxing again. And I'm gone.